Amy Gasparini, and welcome to this segment of Penn Voice. I am joined today by Nirmala Bandrapalli, who is with the Commission on the Status of Women. She happens to be president, as well as Tanya, who is the director of the Commission on the Status of Women, both for San Mateo County. Nirmala and Tanya, welcome.
Thank you.
This is probably one of my favorite commissions within San Mateo County, and I appreciate you both for your volunteer position, Nirmala, and Tanya, for you shepherding the Commission on the Status of Women. We're here to talk about what the Commission does and a very exciting event that you have coming before us. So I think I'll start, Tanya, maybe just with you. Give us some background on the Commission on Status of Women and what it is that you try and accomplish each year.
The Commission on the Status of Women, we're one of the commissions of the county. There's over 20 commissions in the county, and we started back in 1982 when Supervisors Anna Eshu and Jackie Spear enacted this commission. So it's been around for a while. Right. In its current status, we are looking at a variety of priorities around women's issues this year, looking at mental health in supporting women in marginalized communities right. in mental health and wellness. And one of the other big projects that we're doing, a platform to talk about that, is our conference, our Women's Leadership Conference, Rise 2020. So that's coming up March 7th and at Skyline College, and we're just very excited to be able to bring women together in the county to talk about those issues.
And I know we're going to talk more about the conference in a little bit, but Nirmala, what are the things that sort of, why did you want to become not only a commissioner, but now you're president of the commission? This is a volunteer position for you. And those kinds of things that you're talking about, quality of life issues for women in this county. What brought you to the table?
Well, I'm very passionate about supporting women. And as you know, I was born and raised in India, and I moved this country and I did my higher education here in the United States. And I really want to be a voice for women. And this is a great avenue that gives me to do that work.
Right.
And our commission is such a wonderful team.
Right.
We are here to listen to women, understand the issues that our county is facing
right.
by women of all age groups.
Right.
And I want to be a voice for them.
Right.
See what we can do, because we are the advisory board to the Board of Supervisors.
Right.
And we make recommendations.
Right. And as an advisory voice to the County Board of Supervisors, could you give us an example of some of the issues or projects or programs that you've then advised the county supervisors on? Just give us an example.
Right. I mean, I just became the president this year, but last year we worked on basically understanding real issues. So we actually conducted meetings in libraries in different parts of the county, and we came to know that so many women, especially in Pacifica area, they have no homes, or people are kicked out of their homes. Women who are rich, they're paper rich, but they have no cash.
Right.
And these women, they are in their late 80s, 90s, they have no place to go.
Right.
I mean, imagine homelessness.
Right.
Not only for...
As we're aging, right?
For aging people. And so made recommendation to the board to take action.
Right.
And San Mateo County is already taking action, but this year, we actually going to put... we are working on 3 projects. Basically, the first one is mental health. Mental health is affected by all age groups.
Sure.
So just like, physical health, we need to take care of mental health.
Correct.
That is the total health.
Right.
And that's something that we are working on this year, and also Census 2020. And these are the areas that we are going to focus. And then we are going to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors to take action. In fact, we are also going to work with our Youth Commission with regards to the mental health, see what we can do in the San Mateo High School Union District. What processes we could put in place. That's one of the things that I'm really passionate about and focusing on.
And Tanya, you mentioned that the county has 20 other different commissions. So I would imagine that when you're discussing something like mental health, that you're also looking at what commissions are doing with regard to the San Mateo County Hospital or behavioral health. So tell us about how you kind of work with some of the other commissions so that when you get to a health gap or a gap within the community, you bring in other commissions to work with them in the solutions.
Yeah, that's a great point. Collaboration is how we do our work, whether that's with other commissions, other county groups, nonprofits, even small businesses throughout the county. One example is a great collaboration we have with our Arts Commission. The Arts Commission does an annual women's art exhibit every March for Women's History Month. And we usually support them by making sure that that event is advertised. Well, this year we're doing something a little bit different. We're taking an angle of looking at art therapy and helping to impact an arts program within Maple Street Correctional Center. There are programs that the women there in that house just really are not receiving with regards to arts program. So how we're doing that is we're selecting a couple pieces of art to raffle at Rise 2020. The money raised with that particular project will go to the arts program because right now they don't have any funding, but it's been shown to be very successful. So that's just one example. It's one little thing that we can do.
Right. And I know this is an example in the past, but I remember when Palo Alto, San Mateo County, was hosting the Super Bowl probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. The Commission on the Status of Women was really a front leader in ensuring that human trafficking around the Super Bowl was not something that we were going to be faced with. We were really, really working with law enforcement. So it's kind of an example of something that the Commission on the Status of Women, you could point to say, these are the kinds of things that we might get involved in, one in a project base, but then also now what you're talking about in mental health visioning. So we talked a little bit about Rise 2020. I want to go into it just a little bit more, and then I'd also like to get into the conversation about how you might apply to be a commissioner and some of the work that you're looking to in the future. So Tanya, you want to tell us a little bit about Rise 2020? How do we get involved? How do we enroll? How do we become part of the conversation?
Right. The Commission on the Status of Women has done historically an event called the Women's Hall of Fame. They've been doing it since 1984, almost at the beginning of the Commission's work. And a few years ago, they decided to expand that event and make it a full-day program, a conference program that provides personal and professional development to women in a variety of different areas. This year's Rise 2020 is only the second time we're doing this event. So it's a little bit bigger. We have different sessions looking at corporate and career development, mental health and wellness track, a youth-led advocacy track, and then a what I call the government and grassroots track, looking at women leaders in those areas. And so with this year's event, we really want to be able to bring women together to network, to walk away with some action items that they want to do in their own communities and networking. We really have learned from our last conference that the value that women received out of that particular event was being able to connect with each other.
Right.
How an everyday woman is a leader in her own right, and she holds so much expertise and skills and information that once we get women together from all different arenas, that's where the kismet happens.
Right.
So that's why we're doing this year.
And I love the idea that we have young women who are either just out of college or maybe perhaps still in school. They're thinking about their professional life, and they're sitting next to someone who is a very seasoned professional with a lot of experience already under their belt. And the two can sort of talk about these sort of mentor ideas or learning from the young, bright perspective that we sometimes don't necessarily think about because we've been in this for so long that perhaps we're not as fresh and idealistic as we should be. So that's a fun thing too, just that organic conversation that happens from two people just sitting next to each other at the conference as well.
Exactly.
So we want to talk a little bit about the Commission of the Status of Women and your 2020 priorities. You touched on them very briefly. So one is having a very successful conference. You've named your new Hall of Fame inductees. People can go to the website to see who they are. But now tell us about what you're thinking about for your 2020 priorities.
As I mentioned earlier, so basically we are focusing on 3 projects. The first one is the RISE 2020 conference that's coming up on March 7th. And the second project that we are focusing is on Census 2020.
Right.
See what we can do within the county,
And what are some of the priorities there? We know the census is coming. Where do we find the challenges to be?
Well, registering women, especially people who don't have access to internet, for example.
Okay.
How do they enter the information? Maybe we might plan to, we still need to discuss with the commission, but we might do some workshops, maybe have some meetings in different libraries within the San Mateo County that will allow women to come and register.
And why is it important for everyone to participate in the census?
So that they have a voice in the community.
Okay.
And that's important. Women's needs are known. That's because if we don't have the information, we don't know what's going on, right?
And the resources.
And the resources
If people aren't
provide.
counted on the census, if we don't have an accurate count, it actually has a financial impact on resources, or like housing, like transportation, like access to affordable childcare. If your voice is not counted on the census, those things get cut.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a real important message for us to learn that no matter where you feel you are in the spectrum of residency or not, your voice does matter, because that's how municipalities, the state, the counties determine how they're going to set funding priorities for various issues like housing, transportation, economic development, health, human services. So I agree with you. Thank you. That voice is really important. So Census 2020.
Right, and then mental health.
Mental
as
health.
I mentioned. And we might be partnering with the San Mateo High School Union District, see what we can do, how we can maybe work with their counselors, have an additional programs, or maybe even make a video.
Right.
What it's like, because students don't understand.
Right.
Not everybody, right? A lot of kids are going through mental health issues, and they don't have they have self-stigma also attached to it. And then so we need to help them, educate them, be there for each other.
Right.
Peer-peer support, and even at workplaces too, that.
I appreciate that you're looking at adolescent mental health, because I think a lot of times we focus on the adult, and then when we look at mental health, it's usually attached to some stigma of drug addiction or some other stigma with regard to a psychosis or some kind of chemical-based behavioral, and yet our children are facing these very challenging times. And again, we can look at root causes of social media, the pressures of high school and college today. So thank you so much for choosing that as one of your priorities.
Yeah, thank you.
And so now, as you've looked forward now for 2020, how does someone apply, because they want to be part of this conversation, or they want to be a part of this commission?
We have a link on the website.
Okay.
And they can apply there. And also, I guess San Mateo County posts all the open positions for all the commissions. That's one way to apply. And basically, last time we had 3 openings, and we had about 24 people applied, applicant pool. So I guess a lot of enthusiasm and interest to support the commission.
And how many people sit on the commission currently?
We have 17 commissioners and then 2 youth commissioners.
2 youth commissioners. Okay. So obviously, go to your website, see how you can be a part of the conversation. Even if you're not on the commission, you can still be part of the conversation with all. So I'm just going to give it to you, Tanya. We've got about 30 seconds before we end the program. What do you want to leave people with on the Commission on the Status of Women?
This is 2020.
Right.
This is a significant year for the country, for our state, and for our county. This commission on the status of women is only one vehicle that people can sort of listen to and get involved with to impact their community. This is where you can learn how to sign up for the census, register to vote, to simply have your voice be heard. So it's more than just applying for the position.
Right.
It's following us on social media, joining our events, and asking questions.
Right.
We are here to answer those questions and to hear you.
Thanks so much for that. It's obviously much larger than just being part of the commission. It's your voice. I've heard that loud and clear. So we're going to make our voice known to the rest of the community and those watching us through Penn TV. I want to thank you both for joining us, and I want to thank all of you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see each other at Rise 2020.